closest to the people, to make it clear that no president can commit our military forces absent an attack on our country or imminent threat of invasion without the approval of Congress, and certainly not to help industry chase new profits or revenue in oil or minerals around the globe. We have a duty to our constituents, to our Constitution, and to posterity. Let us uphold it. Vote yes on the resolution. And with that, Mr. President, I yield back.
The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsobrooks.
I recognize the senator from Idaho.
Close. Are we in a quorum call? We are in a quorum call. Ask quorum call be vitiated.
Without objection.
Mr. President, fellow senators, we're about to vote on a war powers resolution, which is becoming common around here and way too common, as a matter of fact. But I think the first thing we ought to talk about is what we're actually doing here from a 30,000-foot standpoint as far as what the resolution actually says. As usual, there's a lot of setup in here, but there's 2.5 lines that says what we're trying to do here. Not we, what the other side is trying to do here. And it says, Congress hereby directs the President to terminate the use of the United States Armed Forces for hostilities within or against Venezuela. Let me say that again. We're directing the President to terminate the use of armed forces for hostilities within or against Venezuela. There isn't anybody that has any information that the President is using armed forces against Venezuela. He did for about 47 minutes this last weekend, but he is not in the process of doing this. And the resolution says that he should stop it. He's not doing it. Now, if the resolution were drawn to say, President, you can't do this anymore, that would actually have some effect, or attempt to have some effect. It would be unconstitutional, unenforceable. But to tell him to not do something or to stop doing something he's not doing is nonsense. The effect of this is to slap the President of the United States in the face. That is the only effect that this vote can have. It can have no practical effect because it's trying to stop something that isn't going on. So, we are again here considering this war powers resolution to remove the troops from a foreign country where they do not exist. The War Powers Act was created as a way to address the continuing deployment of U.S. forces into hostilities or in hostilities. There is no continuing deployment of U.S. forces in hostilities. The War Powers Act was never designed to remove the President's Article II right to defend the United States, its interests, or its citizens, and nor indeed could the War Powers Act do that, because the Constitution absolutely directs the President of the United States to use the military might of the United States to protect it. Indeed, the constitutional power is given to the President. We cannot change that. It is the power that he has. This vote and similar votes before it are an abuse of the War Powers Act. There are no U.S. military forces in Venezuela. The United States conducted a limited operation that removed an indicted narco-terrorist, Nicolas Maduro, from Venezuela and brought him to the United States to face justice for his crimes. Now, was this a good thing to do? Well, of course it was a good thing to do, and indeed, Democrats themselves have said that it was a good thing to do. I want to read from 3 different Democrats who told us that this was a good thing to do. I'm not going to name them. They can step up and take credit if they want to. But these are 3 different Democrats. The first one said, obviously, we know Maduro and his cronies do not want to go quietly into the night, but the United States needs to work with its partners and allies in the region to ratchet up pressure. This was a senator on August 2nd, 2024. The same senator said, after Maduro was removed, it is an illegal act of war to replace Maduro. Another senator said, and this was back in 2019, if Trump cared about consistency, he would make the realist case for intervention in Venezuela. Getting rid of Maduro is good for the United States. This senator called for intervention in Venezuela. You know what he says now, after the invasion? The invasion of Venezuela was nothing to do with American security. Venezuela is not a security threat to the U.S. That's what he says today. Now, one of my favorites, this senator said, and this was on February 5th, 2020, And the president brags about his Venezuela policy. Give us a break. He hasn't brought an end to the Maduro regime. The Maduro regime is more powerful today and more entrenched today than it was when the president began. Well, the president changed that. He removed Maduro. You know what that same senator says today? This is reckless. And the American people are just this morning in fear of what's going to happen here. That was January 4th, 2026. This is the height of hypocrisy. The purpose of this resolution is to slap the president in the face. It will do nothing that it purports to do because it can't stop something that isn't going on right now. In addition, the president's actions in Venezuela are consistent with other presidents' efforts to protect the American people from threats in our own backyard. President George H.W. Bush authorized limited military operations to arrest Panama's Manuel Noriega and bring him to the United States to stand trial for drug-related charges, just as President Trump's done with Maduro. In that case, President Bush deployed more than 9,000 troops, and they fought for 2 weeks on the ground in Panama before they got their hands on Noriega. At that time, both Republican and Democrat leaders of the Senate praised this move. Compare that to what happened here. There were only about 200 troops involved, and they were engaged for 47 minutes. And yet, all of a sudden, this is a horrendous problem. Thank you very much, Senator. I appreciate that. When you're in the business of flooding drugs into the United States, drugs that kill our children and hurt our country and destabilize our hemisphere in violation of U.S. law, and when you invite in Russia, China, and Iran to set up shop right in our backyard and do the things that they're doing, there's going to be a price to pay. Maduro is paying that price today. But unlike the former president, President Trump demonstrated he is a man of action. He was decisive and did what he promised the American people he would do, and that is to keep them safe. Now Democrats are reversing their position on Maduro's removal to criticize the president. The president's decision was the right call. Let's acknowledge that fact. Let's celebrate that fact. Let's resolve that the president of the United States is to be commended for what he did. My fellow senators, vote no on this resolution. This is nothing more than a slap in the face of the President of the United States. It cannot accomplish something that does not exist. I yield the floor.
I recognize the Democrat leader.
Mr. President, first I want to thank Senators Kaine for his great leadership on this issue, Senator Schiff, Senator Paul for working with me on this resolution. If there was ever a moment for the Senate to find its voice, it is now. The Senate must act to stop Donald Trump's folly. Today, the Senate must assert the authority given to it in the Constitution on matters of war and peace. And we must send Donald Trump a clear message on behalf of the American people: no more endless wars. If any of my colleagues, if any of the American people doubted what Trump was up to, here's what he said last night to the New York Times. They asked him, how long are we going to stay in Venezuela? A month, 6 months, a year? Donald Trump said, quote, I would say much longer. Donald Trump's ready for an endless war in Venezuela and Lord knows where else. The American people are not. The American people want us to focus on the number one issue they face: the rising costs, that they can't afford the things they need, the affordability crisis. And instead, Donald Trump and too many of our Republican colleagues are saying, let us spend our treasure and maybe even American lives on Venezuela and other areas far afield. How can the American people watch this and not just groan and grimace and ache and fear when we try to do this kind of when America has tried to do this kind of nation building, this kinds of regime replacement in the past? It's led to the American people paying the price in treasure and in blood. So now we have the opportunity to stop. We're very close. We urge our Republican colleagues to join us. Tell the American people you want to focus on what they care about: the cost of groceries, the cost of health care, the cost of electricity and other goods. The contrast between what's happening in the House and the Senate today is glaring. In the House, there will be, from what I am told, a good number of Republicans who will join in saying, extend the tax credits for 3 years. Leader Thune has even refused to put that on the floor. But what's happening here, the ability, the strength, the constitutional authority of the Congress to say no, no endless wars, no sending all our money down to Venezuela and Lord knows what other countries. Again, just look at this, my Republican colleagues. A year longer, I would say not. Here's what Trump said on oversight of Venezuela. He said it could last for years. They asked him, a year longer? He says, I would say much longer. How many of you want to see us bogged down in Venezuela for a whole bunch of years? If you don't want to see that, if you want to see us focused on the costs the American people are facing and reduce them, vote with us, vote yes on this very important resolution. I yield the floor.
I recognize the senator from Virginia.
Mr. President, I've spoken before, so I'm going to be very brief, and then I'm going to call up the business of the Senate, this War Powers resolution. 2 points. In the aftermath of the briefing yesterday, I've had good conversations with colleagues, and many have asked me about the distinction between the execution of a valid arrest warrant and a larger military operation. And I want to state very clearly that I do not challenge, nor does this resolution challenge, the execution of a valid arrest warrant against Nicolas Maduro. That valid arrest warrant, bringing him to justice in the United States, will be good for America and good for Venezuela. And we do not challenge that. And in fact, under the War Powers resolution, I'm not even sure that the execution of an arrest warrant, even if accompanied by a military escort, would rise to the level of hostilities that would allow such a challenge, and I certainly wouldn't be calling it up for a vote on the floor. But this is obviously bigger than the initiation of an arrest warrant. From the beginning on September 2nd, the striking of Venezuelan boats in open waters, the amassing of naval assets around Venezuela, the president's authorization of covert activities, the seizure of ships, the coordinated attack of the 150 aircraft that not only extracted President Maduro and his wife, but also bombed sites around the countries. This is bigger than an arrest warrant. More than 200 enemies have been killed. U.S. troops have been injured. 2 are still hospitalized. And now we understand, after the hearing yesterday and what's been made public, this will go on for a long period of time. The seizure of oil, the dictation of terms about elections and the politics of Venezuela will go on for years. This is not an attack on the arrest warrant, but it is merely a statement that going forward, U.S. troops should not be used in hostilities in Venezuela without a vote of Congress, as the Constitution requires. The second point I'll make, Mr. President, is this. We're all humans in this place, and one of the things we try to do is minimize votes that we might regret. And it's impossible to eliminate those. We're humans, and we cast thousands of votes, even in a single term in the Senate, and there will be some we might look back on and feel like, oh, maybe we should have done this differently. The most likely vote where regret would be most painful is a vote on matters of war. And I just want to assure my colleagues, here is something I can guarantee you. No one has ever regretted a vote that just says, Mr. President, before you send our sons and daughters to war, come to Congress. That is a vote that no one has ever regretted and no one will ever regret. And with that, Mr. President, pursuant to Section 601B of the International Security Assistance and Arms Control Act of 1976, I move to discharge the Committee on Foreign Relations from further consideration of SJ Res 98, to direct the removal of the United States Armed Forces from hostilities within or against Venezuela that have not been authorized by Congress.
The clerk will report.
Motion to discharge S.J. Res. 98. Joint resolution to direct the removal of United States Armed Forces from hostilities within or against Venezuela that have not been authorized by Congress.
Questions on the motion to discharge? Is there a sufficient second? Appears to be. Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsobrooks, Ms. Baldwin, Mr. Banks.
No.
Gotcha. Mr. Banks, Mr. Barrasso, Mr. Bennett, Mrs. Blackburn, Mr. Blumenthal, Ms. Blunt-Rochester, Mr. Booker, Mr. Bozeman, Mrs. Britt, Mr. Budd, Ms. Cantwell, Mrs. Capito, Mr. Cassidy, Ms. Collins, Mr. Coons, Mr. Cornyn, Ms. Cortez Masto, Mr. Cotton, Mr. Kramer, Mr. Crapo, Mr. Cruz. Mr. Curtis, Mr. Daines, Ms. Duckworth, Mr. Durbin, Ms. Ernst, Mr. Fetterman, Mrs. Fisher, Mr. Gallego, Mrs. Gillibrand, Mr. Graham, Mr. Grassley, Mr. Haggerty, Ms. Hassan, Mr. Hawley, Mr. Heinrich, Mr. Hickenlooper, Ms. Hirono, Mr. Hoven, Mr. Husted, Mrs. Hyde-Smith, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Justice, Mr. Kane, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Kim, Mr. King, Mr. Kennedy, Ms. Klobuchar, Mr. Langford, Mr. Lee, Mr. Lujan, Ms. Lummis, Mr. Markey, Mr. Marshall, Mr. McConnell, Mr. McCormick, Mr. Merkley, Mrs. Moody, Mr. Moran, Mr. Marino, Mr. Mullen, Ms. Murkowski, Mr. Murphy, Mrs. Murray, Mr. Ossoff, Mr. Padilla, Mr. Paul, Mr. Peters, Mr. Reed, Mr. Ricketts, Mr. Risch, Ms. Rosen, Mr. Rounds, Mr. Sanders, Mr. Schatz, Mr. Schiff, Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Schumer, Mr. Scott of Florida, Mr. Scott of South Carolina, Mrs. Shaheen. Mr. Sheehy. Ms. Slotkin. Ms. Smith. Mr. Sullivan. Mr. Thune. Mr. Tillis. Mr. Tuberville. Mr. Van Hollen. Mr. Warner. Mr. Warnock. Ms. Warren. Mr. Welch. Mr. Whitehouse. Mr. Wicker. Mr. Wyden. Mr. Young. Senators voting in the affirmative: Baldwin, Bennett, Durbin, Kane, Ossoff, Reed, Schiff, Schumer, Shaheen, and Young. Senators voting in the negative: Barrasso, Capito, Graham, Johnson, Lankford, Marshall, Moran, Marino, Risch, Scott of Florida, Sheehy, Tillis, and Wicker. Ms. Smith, aye. Mr. Curtis, no. Mr. Murphy, aye. Mr. Merkley, aye.
Mr. Haggerty, no. Ms. Klobuchar, aye. Mr. Crapo, no. Mr. Kennedy, no. Mrs. Britt, no. Ms. Lummis, no. Mr. Warner, aye. Mr. Peters, aye. Mr. Mullen, no. Ms. Murkowski, aye. Ms. Hassan, aye. Mrs. Gillibrand, aye. Ms. Cantwell, aye. Mr. McCormick, no. Mr. Hoven, no. Mr. Wyden, aye. Mr. Warnock, aye. Mrs. Hyde Smith, no. Mrs. Murray, aye. Mr. Kelly, aye. Mr. Welch, aye. Mr. Heinrich, aye. Mr. Lujan, aye. Mr. Padilla, aye. Mrs. Moody, Mrs. Moody, no. Miss Rosen, aye. Mr. Cassidy, no. Mr. Thune, no. Miss Hirono, aye. Miss Collins, aye. Mr. Cornyn, no. Miss Duckworth, aye. Mr. Scott of South Carolina, no. Miss Ernst, no. Mr. Booker, aye. Mr. Markey, aye. Ms. Blunt Rochester, aye. Ms. Warren, aye. Mr. Sanders, aye. Mr. Van Hollen, aye. Mr. Bozeman, no. Mr. Tuberville, no. Mr. Justice, no. Mr. Cotton, no. Mrs. Blackburn, no. Mr. Banks, no. Mr. Husted, no. Ms. Cortez Masto, aye. Mr. Ricketts, no. Mr. Schmidt, no. Mr. McConnell, no. Ms. Slotkin, aye. Mr. Coons, aye. Miss Alsobrooks, aye. Mr. Blumenthal, aye. Mr. Gallego, aye. Mr. Sullivan, no. Mr. Kim, aye. Mr. Rounds, no. Mr. Budd, no. Mr. Grassley, no. Mr. Hickenlooper, aye. Mr. King, aye. Mr. Lee, no. Mr. Fetterman, aye. Mr. Schatz, aye. Mr. Whitehouse, aye. Mrs. Fisher, no. Mr. Kramer, no. Mr. Cruz, no. Mr. Paul, aye. Mr. Hawley, aye.
The yeas are 52. The nays are 47. The motion is agreed to. The joint resolution will be placed on the calendar. Under the previous order, the Senate will proceed to executive session and resume consideration of the following nomination, which the clerk will report.
Nomination, the judiciary. Alexander C. Van Hook of Louisiana to be United States District Judge for the Western District of Louisiana.
Senator from Louisiana.
Mr. President, could we have order in the chamber, please?
Senate will come to order.
I'm looking for my glasses, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, with me today is Mr. Nick Ayers, a colleague from my office. Nick, would you go in the room in there and see if my glasses fell out of my jacket? Would you? Nick, the President just helped me out here. Thank you, Mr. President. How's my hair? Is it okay? Okay, I understand. You can only do so much. I want to talk about a serious subject, Mr. President. I want to talk about welfare fraud, taxpayer money. Now, I want to make it clear that I love Minnesota. I love Minnesota. But I do not like people, whether they live in Minnesota or elsewhere, who steal money from the poor. There ought to be a special place in hell for them. By now, unless you are still living in your parents' basement playing video games, you know that there has been massive welfare fraud in Minnesota. It's staggering. It's stunning. It's astounding. It may rise to the level of $9 billion of taxpayer money meant for the poor. $9 billion. Now, it's an uncomfortable truth that at this juncture, most of that fraud appears to be centered in the community of Minneapolis among people of Somali ancestry.